Welcome to Bible Time with Aunt Kat. It is good to be back. I have missed you, and I've got to tell you, your prayers for me while I was sick meant so much to me, and I really, really appreciate them. And I'm very eager to get started again. So, for those of you who may be tuning in for the first time, during Bible Time with Aunt Kat, we talk about real people who God tells us about in His Word, the Bible. Real people who can teach us things we need to know so that we can live a life that is pleasing to Him. And we also know that God cannot lie. So everything that comes from His Word is true. That means that these things really happened. These people really lived, and these things really happened to them. So we're going to talk today about two very special friends. What makes one person want to be friends with another? Uh, Usually you have something in common. Maybe you like the same things, or you have characteristics in common. You're both brave, or you're both shy, or something. Or maybe the other person has a characteristic you admire. You're very shy and they're very outgoing. Um, but these two people had several things in common, kind of like these two magnets, or these two sets of magnets, rather. Just like David and Jonathan. David was brave, had a lot of courage, and so did Jonathan. David had great faith in God, and Jonathan did too. And David loved God deeply, and Jonathan loved God deeply as well. And so when they met, they just were very attracted. They just got an instant connection with one another. And that's what we're going to talk about today. You remember when the giant Goliath dared the Israelites to send one person out to fight him, and no one would go except for a young man named David. By the way, he wasn't a little boy. He was a teenager. But David went with a slingshot and some stones, and he killed Goliath. But his faith in God and his courage made an impression on King Saul's son, Jonathan. And Jonathan had that same faith in God and courage, and he had just won a mighty battle himself. And the Bible tells us right after this, that King Saul asked, "Who is this that killed this giant?" And David told him who he was. He was the son of Jesse, a shepherd. And the Bible says that in 1 Samuel 18 and verse 1, it came about when he had finished speaking to Saul that the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as he loved himself. They just became knit together. Now, this isn't knit but it's woven together. The threads are woven together so tightly that you couldn't hardly get them apart. That's what it means to be knit together. They were connected. They had a deep connection to one another just instantly. Have you ever met someone like that you just felt immediately, you felt like you'd known them forever? Well, that's kind of the way they were. They were instant best friends, and it lasted a lifetime. So after that, they were tied by their love for God and their desire to serve God. And so Jonathan gave David his robe and his sword and his armor. This was a covenant or a promise that they would always protect each other. It's kind of like we say these days, I've got your back. Yeah, I've got your back. I'll watch out for you. Now, Jonathan's father, King Saul, was very jealous of David because he knew that God had chosen David to be the next king. And now you would think Jonathan would be jealous too, because Jonathan was next in line after King Saul to be the next king. And you would think he would be jealous and that he wouldn't want anything to do with David. But he knew God had chosen David, and he protected David from his father when his father tried to have David killed several times. And it finally got so bad that David had to run for his life. But before he left, Jonathan and David met, and they kissed each other, and they cried, and they cried. But David cried even more than Jonathan did. David promised to take care of Jonathan's family if anything ever happened to Jonathan. Now remember that, because that's going to be important next week in our next lesson. They met one more time when Saul was trying to kill David in chapter 23 of 1 Samuel. David knew that Saul was seeking to kill him, and he was hiding out in the wilderness of Ziph at Horesh. And it says in chapter 1 Samuel 23, verse 16, and Jonathan, Saul's son, arose and went to David at Horesh and encouraged him in God. Thus he said to him, do not be afraid, because the hand of my father will not find you, and you will be king over Israel. So he encouraged him to keep going, to keep doing what he needed to do, that God had chosen him to be king, to not give up. That's what a good friend does. A true friend encourages us or pushes us along like these magnets, just like that. See? Woo! See, like, let's say up there is where we need to be, our goal. That's heaven up there. And sometimes the way gets hard and we get discouraged, but our friends keep pushing and pushing and encouraging us. You can do it. You can do it. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Keep going. Don't give up now. Don't give up now. There you are. That's what a good friend does. They encourage us in God. So Are you a good friend? What is a good friend? Well, we saw that a good friend sticks by you when you're in trouble, right? Just like David and Jonathan. A true friend helps you find your strength in God when you feel weak. We just saw that. A true friend loves you just like they love themselves. We saw Jonathan love David as he loved himself. A true friend is a gift from God. And do you know who our true friend is? If you can't think of one true friend you have, I know you've got one, because we all have the same true friend. You know who it is? It's Jesus, because Jesus always sticks by us. He always helps us find strength in God through His Word. He loved us more than He loved Himself, because He came and died for us. And He is the greatest gift from God. So, He is our greatest gift. Now, let me get a drink before we do our verse. Our verse comes from Proverbs. And it comes from Proverbs 17:17. And it says, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. Now, adversity is a big word. It just means hard times or trouble. A brother is there when you are having hard times or trouble. They're always going to be there. And a friend loves at all times. And we're going to say it again, and then we're going to sing it. We're going to sing it to the tune of the Bible. But let's say it again. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. Okay. I've got a very dry mouth, so I hope I don't choke out on you. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. Proverbs 17:17. Let's do it again. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. Proverbs 17:17. One more time. Sing it out loud with me. I want to hear you. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. Proverbs 17:17. Okay, now next week,